have on the show interviews with Shambry, Nickole Brewster. She's here to talk about her story, her life. Nickole, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you. We're joking about your last name.
I know, right?
Punky Brewster.
Punky Brewster.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Brewster.
Yeah. Were you a fan of the show?
I was actually,
Okay.
and then in school people would always ask, "Are you related to Punky?" And I'm like, "Sure." I just owned it.
Very nice, very nice. So we're kind of telling our age here too.
Yeah, I
That
know,
was showing
right?
the
It's
showing the
really
80s,
bad.
right? Early 80s.
Yeah.
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 I was excited by that show too. Well, not excited. I'm very masculine here, but no, I was aware of the show. So anyway,
Very cool.
how do we meet? And how you doing? How's been the
good.
week and your life? Tell us about that.
Yeah,
your background.
life is good. It's been really busy. Just traveling and just working on business stuff and just keeping myself focused. Just been one of those kind of weeks.
Okay, great. Where'd you go off to?
I went to Baltimore not too long ago. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, so just kind of recouping. I actually had an event out there, so that was really fun.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. We're going to talk about what you do,
Yeah.
your background, all that stuff. But how do we meet? Let me think. How we meet? We met. Was it
Facebook.
on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because you were. I think I saw a success story about Elevate Him.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're here to
Yeah,
talk about.
tons
Elevate
of,
Him.
tons of victories and good stories about that. Yeah, and I think I had just posted maybe some suits or something, and we just messaged, and it just kind of turned into, hey, let's talk about this. So we ended up doing a Zoom.
Yeah.
Shortly after, and,
Right.
and connected that way. So,
Very
yeah.
nice. Yeah, because I want to be able to be a part of your program.
Yeah.
And maybe be on the board of directors. That's my goal. So hopefully by this interview I can get on the board of directors for the
Hey.
group. That's what I'm seeking. But yeah, I think I know a little bit about clothes and style, and I wrote a book on it actually, which I'll
Very
be
cool.
publishing here very soon. And so hopefully I can give insight. And also teaching another class on HR and how to prepare for interviews for jobs.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I think I can bring to the table with
Yeah,
your
so
group.
it's like
Elevate Him.
It's like two connections right
For
there,
sure,
right?
for
Yeah, very
sure,
cool.
for sure. So who is Nickole Brewster?
Wow. I feel like I wear a lot of hats. So I'm very driven. I'm very passionate. I'm a mother. I really love, humanity and helping and serving. I grew up here in Portland a little bit, so I was born here, but I moved around a lot. So I got a chance to see a lot of culture, different areas, different places, and I think it just really made me have a compassion for people. Mm-hmm. And I've always just been, a go-getter. So
I can tell
yeah,
you are a
just very
go-getter,
driven,
for sure.
Very much so. So yeah, very powerhouse.
Powerhouse. She was telling me behind the scenes about how you did wrestling
I did
and
wrestle
also
in high school.
punching or boxing. Boxing it was.
Yeah, well, I love boxing.
Okay.
But I do have like a little one of those stands that
Yeah.
are like I forget what it's called, but it's like a mobilized punching bag.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
so I have that in the back, so at my house. So yeah, I mean, I like the traditional boxing. I don't mind the UFC, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely about traditional boxing.
Yeah, not to go off tangent here. Who's your favorite boxer right now?
It would have been Mike Tyson back then.
Mike Tyson?
That was my guy, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk about, and because this show is all about empowerment and inspiration. I want to inspire others, and hopefully those that are watching, you are inspired.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about how you started Elevate Him. What is Elevate Him?
Okay. So Elevate Him, I created about 2 years ago. But the crazy thing about it is I actually thought about it 11 years ago. I wrote it down. My brother had committed suicide, and
sorry.
it was a super tragic, experience. So I remember once, everything happened, and I wrote things down, like what did I wanted to do with his things, and how can I, help, make sure that not another man felt that type of way to do that. I had a whole list of things. I had a clothing closet. I had down like who I was going to help and who was going to help me, and services that we could provide. And long story short, I literally just kind of tucked it away, and life was happening, and being a mom, and I'd gone through a divorce, and just all kinds of personal changes were happening for me. So I started working at the airline and traveling and just kind of getting things in order. And so all this time had passed, and it never went away. I always thought about doing something. I just didn't know when or how or what that would even look like. And I ended up going to work one day, and I was just so upset. Like, what do? I don't feel like I'm in a space, that I want to be in. I have something that I want to do. And I ended up quitting my job the
Wow.
next day and literally came home, and I was like, crap, what did I do? I just quit my job. But the nudge to do something in relation to my brother's, passing was so like embedded. I had to do something. And so
Right.
I took that pain and turned it into purpose, and started my nonprofit, Elevate Him, during the
Yes.
pandemic.
Woo!
Yeah. And so it's a men's resource center. You know, I recognized a lot in my research, like what was happening. Men are 4 times higher in suicide than women. Nationwide, there's about 121 suicides per day, and 96 are men. And I'm like, how come this hasn't been addressed? Like, that's a really high number. We have veterans, we have young boys, we have
Right.
men, and no one has a support system to help, elevate or transition them. And it bothered me a lot. And so, yeah, I went for it. And here we are with Elevate Him, a men's resource center.
I got to give you a high five on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Woo.
That's awesome. No,
Yeah.
because you talked about purpose. I'm all about helping others find their purpose. And it seems like you found yours, and you hit on some very sensitive items. Depression. I used to deal with extreme depression. And so my purpose, I feel, is to elevate him and elevate others out of that rut, out of that darkness, and to bring them into some light
Yeah.
of clarity. And it can be very hard, very, very difficult for others to get out of it, and they just need that help. And so I
Yeah.
appreciate you for helping others find the light and find some inspiration.
Yeah, there was a lot of, stats. When you really start doing the research, the first thing I had to think of is, okay, what is there in the community that supports men specific? And I couldn't find anything. There'd be a couple, like maybe counselors or, something of that nature that were self-doing something, but everything was for women, children, and even pets.
Really? Wow.
So where were the men on that scale? And it was really sad, because it's like, here we live in a community and a society for decades that have said men have to do all these things, right? There's an expectation. You got to provide, you got to lead, you got to be financially stable. You have to have it all together.
Right.
And if you don't, then we're going to, have all these other relationship problems. We're going to have divided families.
Wait. I have it all together, so
Yeah.
I definitely understand what you're referring to. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
But yeah, when you feel like you have to have it all together, and then if something comes up, like divorce or custody battles, or just lack of confidence, maybe you lose your job. So many people lost their jobs during the pandemic, and we
Right.
still haven't even got the suicide numbers from that. We won't get those until next year, because it's that far behind. But it was such an eye-opener for me. Like, why do we put men in this box of expectation but don't have the ability or the sense of supporting them if something were to be switched? Like
Right.
a divorce or custody is a huge one. Men aren't, given 50-50. They have to go through all these extra hoops, and I've
Right.
actually talked about that on my podcast. And yeah, it's just a lot. And so to do something that is male specific, that's going to help build confidence, what we provide and who we can connect them with, to establish not just looking good, but when you look good, you feel good. But we want to get them in a position where they can own what's going on in their life and feel confident about moving forward, and not get discouraged to then commit suicide or to fall into the hole of depression and completely giving up on life. So eliminating those numbers is what I'm about.
Very nice,
Yeah.
very nice. And I like
Lots
how you
of layers.
Yeah, I like how you took something negative,
Yeah.
Loss of a loved one,
Yeah.
so your brother, and then you made it a positive thing by helping other people out. So very cool. I appreciate you very much. Let's talk about more of what you do specifically for them, and then after that, let's get into to the podcast.
Yeah.
So what do you do? What's the system? How do you meet them, and then
Yeah.
what's the process? You help them with their clothes, help them with employment. What's the whole recipe for success?
Yeah. So I've partnered or have established relationships with, Multnomah and Washington County Probation and Parole. So there's, definitely some connections there. So like DHS, Probation and Parole, Oregon State Penitentiary knows about me. And so I guess at this point, people are coming from all places, which is great. One gentleman said, hey, I got on the wrong bus and I was just, trying to get somewhere, and this guy started talking, and he was like, hey, you should check out Elevate Him. They have resources. And so it just became a conversation just happening on the wrong bus. But it actually sent him in the right direction.
Right.
And so it was super cool because he came in and, what we do is we ask, it's just like a questionnaire. It's like, okay, what are you here for? The business suit was a way to build that confidence and to really, project self, seeing yourself in a different light. When you're wearing a suit, to me, when I've traveled, working for the airline, I would see men like just posture is different. The handshake is different. The respect of one another is different. And I wanted to give them that sense of style and ownership. And so they come in, they get completely suited. So it could be pants, shoes, coat, all of it. If they needed resources, we'd kind of boil down, okay, what are you looking for? Housing? Are you looking for work? Are you looking for, some people have asked for like attorneys and stuff like that because they're going through custody battles.
Right.
So we would just kind of nail that out. We do free haircuts. So guys have come in for their haircuts, their suit resources.
I can cut hair too.
Yeah.
I can do all that. So I can cut hair. I can do style. I can teach classes on all the stuff you talked about. But go ahead.
Yeah. So those are just part of those layers,
Very nice.
and just being able to provide. We have essential bags. So if somebody's just like, hey, I don't get paid for a couple weeks, well, here's some deodorant and toothpaste and cologne and different things of that nature. What else? We have men's groups, that they get a chance to meet other like-minded men that are on the same journey. Making friends, I think fellowship is huge, especially when guys don't feel like they have a lot, or who to talk to. This is a great way to meet like-minded men. And then the suicide bereavement support group I host once a month to those who have lost a loved one to suicide. That was part of my transition with healing. I didn't realize that as I was helping others heal, that it was helping me heal. And so I've really stayed connected with that, and just guiding people who know exactly how it feels to lose somebody. And it's so different than just, somebody, death is definitely, a grieving and it's sad. But with suicide, you can't rationalize someone's pain to want to leave, and it's so much more impactful. And, you might feel guilt if something, transpired in your relationship. You might not have closure. In fact, you will never have closure when it comes to suicide, because that was something that they chose to do.
Right.
But it still doesn't make it any easier. So I love being able to support others through their grieving process.
I like that. Actually, I love that. How you are helping others and elevating men. Let's talk about the podcast.
Yeah.
What's that all about?
It was really funny. I had, contacted these gentlemen off of Instagram, and I was like, hey, is there any way I can do a podcast with you guys? I thought they were running the podcast itself. And so they're like, yeah, sure, come on down. We'd love to talk to you. So I was like, cool, I'm going to be on a podcast, And I was super excited and, sharing my story because I've been doing a lot of that. And I get there, and we're sitting there talking, and I'm like, how come we're not recording? Aren't we doing a show for you? And they're like, you're the show. And I'm like, what? And they're like, we want you to have your own podcast.
That's great.
And so I got a picture, and they put it up on the wall, and, I have different guests come on. And I really started, at first I was really intimidated by it, oh my gosh, what am I doing?
Right.
But I got it, and it's been so cool to have different people, different backgrounds, different situations. I mean, I even interviewed a gentleman who's doing life in prison right now, and he did a phone call and just asking him questions about rehabilitation and, what's it like in there, just to kind of get some feedback of what's coming out. And I just love being able to, socialize with people and get to know them and their journeys, and everybody has a testimony, and it's just so cool to bring awareness to, people to understand men's mental health, to understand the severity and numbers of suicide by men, And we've also talked about like gun violence, because guns are 56% of the cause of suicide. So I'm also doing a lot of gun prevention work, and I'm on a lot of different boards. I'm on the Suicide Prevention Council in Washington County. I'm a part of a Father's Advisory Board here in Washington County, working through DHS, and just really connecting as much as I can to really hone in on what men are needing and how to support. So, yeah.
I like it.
The podcast has been helpful.
Yeah, and I can tell your ability to speak well and just carry on a conversation.
Yeah.
It sounds like you had some training and yeah,
No,
that you
this
are,
is all natural. This is all natural.
yeah, we talked
No
about that,
training.
you being so natural. So very nice. How do we? So let's before we talk about how we stay in contact with you,
Yeah.
tell us some success stories.
Oh my gosh.
At least one or two.
Yeah. So one is really heavy, but there's been a couple that, once they got suited, we tried to do the before and after pictures as you see.
Wait, we want to hear heavy stuff. What do you mean?
Yeah,
heavy?
well,
It's like,
I'll have two.
okay.
So the first one is just kind of like, when we suit them, I try to do like a before and after picture, right? Because they really
Yeah.
like that.
Right.
And it's a great way to show like they came in completely vulnerable and now they go out ready, And so I know that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked on inside as well, but it was really cool to see those transformations. So I love getting the success stories when someone's like, hey, I landed that job. Thank you so much for the confidence in the suit. I've had different, encounters where I had a gentleman call me and he was like, I don't need a suit. I don't need any resources, but I want to commit suicide. And, I kind of froze. I'm sitting in my office. I'm like, okay, let's talk this out. How can I help? And an hour and 24 minutes, I stayed on the phone. And before he was so intelligent. He was so full of life, which was kind of crazy considering why he called. He said, I found your flyer at my friend's shop, and I just needed somebody to talk to who didn't know me. And so we stayed on the phone, and he was laughing and crying, and it was so emotional. I got really emotional and really, compassionate for his situation. And then getting him to laugh, he was answering his own questions. He was moving through that whole conversation positively by the end of the call. And he said, Nickole, there needs to be more people like you, and thank you for saving my life today. So shortly after, he had contacted me on Facebook. We got a chance to kind of like check in. And then I checked on him again a couple weeks later, just, hey, how you doing? He goes, wow, you really care. And I said, absolutely. And he goes, you know what? I got into some really good counseling, and I got my apartment. And so it's just knowing that you're meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
And you're just compassionate. I think we just need to be more understanding, and that's where we see a lot of problems, is the lack of understanding.
Yeah.
So this whole journey has allowed me to understand that men are human.
Yes.
Men have feelings and emotions.
For sure.
And men don't have a lot of support. And it's hard for them to talk about certain things, so why not really try to tap into that and give them a space to do so. So yeah.
Great.
It was cool.
Great. So Nickole, how do we stay in contact with you?
So I got my website, www.elevatehimnow.org. Social media platforms such as Facebook is Elevate Him, Instagram is elevate.him. And then, you can go to the website, you can contact me through the emails. There we have merch, we have all kinds of, testimonies and pictures of people who are supporting nationwide. So thank you.
Very nice. Thank you. So you heard Nickole's story, how she's helping others, how she's elevating others, getting them out of the rut, saving lives. We want to thank her for coming to the show. We want to thank you for watching the show. Have an awesome, awesome